here, see if we can get connected to all the different the servers. We're live on YouTube right now, and we're live on Facebook. Just give it just a moment. And all right, hopefully we can get connected. And there we go. We're getting a couple of viewers in. This is great. We've got 3 viewers in so far, coming in from both YouTube and Facebook. Looking good, looking good. All right, and let's get started today. Hey, how's everyone doing? My name is Steven. I'm with the ACE Formula. Today we've got a line of questions coming through here, and of course, if you're paying attention, if you're live on with us right now, you can go ahead and hop on and ask any questions as well. Hey, John. Hey, man, how you doing? Oh, long time no see. We should catch up, buddy. I miss you, pal. All right, so yeah, let's hop on. So the first question that we have today is we have hey Michael, so first question we have today is, how long should I wait to text a girl after a date? So this is like one of those tricky little questions, because on the surface it's like, oh, you know what, that sounds like a pretty decent question. Like, if after a good date, how, what's like the best way in order to make sure that you can like see her again. But it's a trick question here, because it just implies that you should text her. Like that's like the best way to communicate, and it isn't. Probably the best way in order to make sure that you get a second date is to set up the second date while you're on the first date, and you do that in person. So how it would go is, as you're talking, you kind of figuring out like the things that things that you like, things that you both like, and you kind of like start future planning, right? Like planning around like what's what are we going to do next time that we hang out? Like when are you next free? Let's go and do that laser tag that we were just talking about, right? So your second date's always going to be a little bit more exciting than your first date, right? Because in your first date, you kind of want it to be a safe place to meet somebody for the first time. So you're looking at like a coffee shop or some place where it's really low pressure and that they can, walk out and not feel like, they're obligated to stay around with you, especially if they don't know you, especially if it's like from like a dating website or something where you're just like a total stranger, a blind date. They don't really know what they're getting into. And so it's always best to start off with something like a little bit, safer, where you can leave and part ways without being super rude. So if you're like, let's go to an amusement park for our first date, that's a horrible first date, because then they feel obligated to like stay in the amusement park. It's like for all day. Like that's like one of those things that they plan to do all day. Same with like, hey, let's go to the beach for our first date. It's like, well, how long are we going to be there? Like a beach implies it's going to be a really long time. And so basically those are great second dates. And that's things that you want to be talking about on your first date, is like, what are we going to, do you like the beach? Have you ever been to, this, Six Flags or whatever amusement park? And you can plan out those dates while you're on the first one, and then set that up. And that's the best way in order to make sure that you get that second date. Now, in terms of staying in touch, if you plan that second date out and it's going to be, we're going to do it 2 weeks from now, I don't recommend that at all. I recommend doing it, setting up your second date to happen sometime within the next 3 days is like perfect, is ideal. Obviously, we don't live in a perfect ideal world, so it's probably going to be next weekend. And if it's that case, if you're going to do that, then once you set that up, you should text her in order to like see, check in, see how she's doing. Either you can do it later on that day and say, hey, I had a lot of fun. You can do it the next day. But the real thing is you want to stay connected well enough that when, it doesn't feel like you just dropped off the radar for a week. And I really strongly recommend that you do that via, a phone call or FaceTime. It's going to be much more personal and feel like you actually have like a connection that's building up, that's stronger than just like, your average, first date, especially from like a dating website. So yeah, that's how long you should wait to text a girl after a first date. Second question that we have here, as people are jumping in, we have how often should I text a girl who I like? So how often you should text a girl that you like is really down to it's a matter of frequency, again, of seeing her. That's going to be much more important than actually like, if I'm texting her, do I text her every day so that way she knows that I like her, or do I text her every 3 days? That's just like in general a weird way of thinking about it, because if this is a person that you like and that you are either you're going on dates, or they know that there's like a chemistry and you're trying to figure out if you both have that same chemistry. It's the most important thing is, how often do you see them? So you really want to be seeing somebody that you like. There's kind of like this weird rule where after you had sex with somebody, there's already like an established relationship. Like, this is an established sexual relationship. We've had sex. Now, let me rewind. That's not necessarily true if it was like a one night stand type of sex, and now you're trying to build a relationship off of that. That gets us slightly different. But let's say that it was, you went on a first date, you did have sex, and now you want to know how often you should text her. It's really just, you want to be seeing her at least once a week, in order to make sure that they feel like they are still part of your life. And so that's going to be the most important thing. And in order to do that, you should probably be texting, probably somewhere between like twice a week in order to stay in touch. Really, texting is down to like, you really just want to be texting for logistics. If you're really a fun texter, you really enjoy it, and it's like your thing, you're just like really into it, you can definitely text as much as you'd like to, as long as it stays in that fun zone. But if you're like, I get nervous when I text and I sometimes say the wrong thing, and that it blows things out of proportion because they misread me, if that's you, then you want to be texting as little as possible. Only be texting for logistical purposes. If you want to stay in touch, again, phone call is the way to do it. So you're going to be, hopping on a call with her, maybe like halfway through the week, checking in, seeing how her day went, how her week's going, talking about what you're going to be doing, on your next date that you already planned on your first date. And so that's how often you should text a girl that you like. If you have any questions about that, if I wasn't unclear, go ahead and drop a question down here in the box as we're going live, and I can definitely clarify that, because I kind of went down a specific niche on that one, and I definitely get that. All right. Third question that we have is how to be better at texting girls. So this is actually one that this is a question I get a lot, and this is a question that has like a really cool answer. First of all, texting as a form of communication is completely flawed. It's like really, really bad. It just completely lacks everything except words, right? That's all you're getting is words. And so you have to either be really, really clever with your words, or you have to find ways in order to inject emotion into your text messaging, because it doesn't have emotion in it. You can't be emotional with your tonality. You can't be emotional with your body language. You can't be emotional with your your pauses or the way that you look at somebody. Through text, it doesn't have that. So the best way of doing it would just be, again, in an ideal world, your phone calls or video chat. But if you want to just know specifically texting, especially like when you're first on a dating app, you don't actually, have phone calls. You don't have video app yet. So in order to inject emotion into your text messages, that's going to be the key. The key of this is to inject emotion into your text messages. That's what I meant to say. And so the way that you do that, there's two ways of going about it. One, you could just be an inherently funny guy, just really, really clever with your words, and always choosing to interpret things just the right way to, in order to make it really funny, in order to juice up the situation and cause a little bit of like fun drama, not the negative drama, but like the fun stuff, right? We're like, oh, did you mean this? Did you mean So playing with your words is a really great one, a great way of doing it. But I'm going to assume that like most people just they're not inherently funny, right? They're not inherently going to be super charismatic with it. Well, that's okay. There is a way that you can also be, text a lot better. And that's just using words in your text messages that mean emotion. Like, talk about emotions. Talk about, if she tells you that she's a teacher, don't say, oh, that's cool, I'm a doctor. Don't say anything like that. You want to talk about, oh, shoot, like, that must be super stressful. Are you one of those teachers that like rips out her hair at the end of the day? Or are you one of those ones that just really, really loves kids? And like, you're just like, I just want to just plant a seed for a better tomorrow, right? And you could talk about the emotion behind it. How does that make, which of these emotions does that make you feel being a teacher? So now that you're talking about the emotion, You don't have to be clever. You don't have to insert emotion in there. That's already bringing up emotion. Just talking about it. If she tells you she had a really frustrating day and she tells you about what happened, you'd be like, "Oh, that would have pissed me off." Just using those words like that would have pissed me off, or that's so frustrating, or that's really exciting. I'm so happy to hear that. That must have, been, that must have been insane. I bet you loved that. Things like that. Just using those emotional words and just in punching that into every single text message that you do. If you follow the ACE formula, we have a texting formula or just a communication formula. We call it Talk Like a Pirate, ARR, and you can punch in those emotional language. You can punch in that emotional language in every A of the ARR. So this is the first thing that you do. It's your acknowledgement of what she said. So if she tells you something, you acknowledge it, and you can use that emotional language in order to acknowledge it. Like, oh, that would have that would have melted my brain. I can't believe that happened to you. That's crazy, right? So that would be your form of acknowledgement. That'd be your way of punching in that emotion. And just by doing that little bit, adding that emotion in there, it makes the other person crave texting, because now it's like this form of like, yeah, I'm getting my emotional spikes. I'm getting my my logical communication. Everything's adding up together to make the perfect formula for a great conversation. So make sure that you're punching in emotion in every text message, and that's how you're going to be able to text better. All right, so John, we have a question here from John here, and it says, what is the best way to kill flakiness before the first date? John, best way to kill flakiness before a first date is going to be building up trust with her beforehand. And again, that's going to be coming in through whether, if you know her like in person already, it's much easier. You're going to see her a lot. You're going to see her very frequently. So it's going to be very rare that she's going to flake on you for the first date and not at least follow up to do a second date because something bad happened and she like needs to make it up to you. Now, if you're going from a dating app or some form where you don't have a previous relationship with her, then the best way in order to kill flakiness before a first date is actually have your first date be over a phone call or over a video chat. A lot of people just don't do this. A lot of people like want to skip from the dating app to meeting in person, and there's just a higher flake rate like that. Because they don't know you, because their life is going to be more important than this plan that they made with this total stranger that they don't have any connection with yet, because they've never met them or talked to them other than just through text alone without emotion. It's much more higher likelihood to flake. So what I suggest that you do is hop on a video chat first. Now you can say, that you want to hop on a call first. And a really easy justification for that is that, you've been on boring dates before. Most people have. If they've been on lots of dates, they've been on boring dates before. And they don't like to, they want to make sure that when they go and meet somebody that they've never met before, that they can have a connection with them, that there's a chance that you can, stay in flow, that you can vibe together. And so, in order to make sure that you can do that, ask to hop on a phone call sometime. Now, that being said, if they haven't met you before, there is, some people do have a rule where it's like, I don't give out my phone number to somebody that I've never met before. That's okay. There's Instagram. You can actually do voice calls with Instagram, or you can do like video chats through Facebook or something. So you can use these alternatives in order to, suggest that you move off of one of those instead, but that you have a rule where you just don't like to meet people that you could end up like falling really, really flat with, because you don't like actually have that vibe. Like through text message, it's fine, but in face to face, it's just like it's like talking to a dead fish. You don't want to, you don't want to risk that. So you want to hop on a call first, and just that call will build up enough rapport with that person, build up enough trust that they'll feel like, oh, I actually know this person a lot better than just that other guy that I've just been texting. I've actually talked to this one, so I'm going to show up to the date when you're planning the date, like over the call and everything. They're going to be much more likely to actually follow through with it. And again, this also comes from like, if you were to talk to them first and then set up the date via text message, yeah, they're more likely to go than if you hadn't talked to them. But if you set up the date while you're on the phone call, then they're much more likely to not flake at all. You'll get a higher chance than if you set up the date through text. So that's kind of a fun thing, a fun little fact to play with as well. But yeah, so that's the best way in order to kill flakiness before a date. Let's see. Up next, the next question that we have here is, on a first date, who should pay for the date and why? So if you're on oh wait, John just jumped in. Haha, 100% can't skip steps. Yeah. Now you can skip steps sometimes, but you just know that it could just not follow through, right? Like you're just giving yourself a much higher flake rate if you tried to skip that step and tried to not you jump from from messaging to to meeting up in person. Like that's okay. It's okay to throw those Hail Marys. I'm all for Hail Marys, and just to see like what would happen if I just didn't use the next step that I know would make my life a lot easier. Just because. So I mean, I encourage you not to skip steps, but you totally can play with it for sure. More risk, exactly. All right. So next question was who should pay for a first date and why? So this is kind of tricky as well. There's a lot of thought behind this. The main one is in every new relationship that you're jumping into, or just like if you're meeting somebody for the first time, they all start with some amount of investment. Like at least one person is putting that first step forward, and they're hoping to get a step back. And there's too much investment can definitely tip the scale and make the other person feel like no, that this other person is over investing and that they feel uncomfortable. It can drive somebody away. It literally is uncomfortable to have somebody over invest in an interaction before that you've invested back. And that goes financially as well. So this is kind of an interesting thing. But if you, let's say that you're a really well-off guy and you've got like lots of money, and you want to take somebody out on a really crazy fun first date where you're like going to go, helicopter over Hawaii and, do whatever, like do some crazy stuff, right? Like even in Hawaii, like that would be, even if like you met the person in Hawaii, that's still like a really crazy first date to do. And it's expensive and the other person knows it. If the other person doesn't come from money, if having a lot of money to them is a treat versus something that is just like they have, then that's going to feel like over investment for them. They're going to feel really kind of guilty that you spent so much money on the first date, and it's just actually going to drive them away. So you have to be cognizant of that on a first date where you have like no investment from either party, and you guys are putting in investment a little at a time to stay balanced in order to keep the relationship going. It's important that if you're going to pay as the guy, you want the first date to be something that is cheap or free, like a coffee. It's something that doesn't take a lot of investment. It's not like you're going out to dinner and you're dropping $200 on a dinner or something. And if she comes from money, dropping that'd be fine, right? Like if she's like money, she has a lot of money herself, and you took her out on a really expensive date because you have a lot of money, then an expensive dinner. It's not gonna break off you're not going to overinvest by doing that. But most people, you have to keep in mind, like most people don't have a lot of money. It's just part of like the capitalism of America. Most people don't come from having a lot of money. And so you want to make sure that you keep that in mind on your first date. So you want to do things like, let's go for a walk. Let's go, start off by meeting, face to face over coffee. And it's totally fine that you can, buy her a coffee. And if she wants to, go Dutch and she's like, actually, I'll buy my own, or, this next round's on me, that's totally fine too. Same with drinks. If you're just getting her a drink, and she gets you one back and you're just, make a game of next round's on me, that's a really even way to have like a really nice date that, both parties feel that they had a good time on and that they didn't feel like the other person over invested. But a lot of guys make the mistake of saying like, oh, I'm going to take you out to this fancy restaurant that I know about. I'm going to spoil you. I'm going to, give you the best date you've ever been on. And and then they get very confused on why, she never reaches out again. So it is super important on how much money that you spend on a first date. And it's super important on, who does it. If you were to go both do something expensive, but you're both were to, go Dutch, like you went, oh, let's go skydiving for our first date, which I don't recommend, but let's go do that anyway. Then you should probably want her to get her own ticket and you get your own ticket when you go and do that. And that will give you a much higher chance that you don't overinvest in the interaction too early and cause her to feel uncomfortable and feel like, she needs to keep looking elsewhere because you're too invested into this relationship, even though you barely know each other. So that is who should pay on a first date and why. Let's see. Next question that we have is, what's the best way to get an attractive girlfriend? So right now, because we're in 2020. COVID is a thing. Meeting people out in public is tricky, right? It comes with a lot of risk, and it comes with a lot of strategy if you want to do it safely. So honestly, the best way to meet an attractive girlfriend is to have a hobby or an interest or take a class or do something that is involved around an activity or an interest of some sort that she will share, that she will be also doing that same thing. And so you get to know each other through this activity, you get to know each other through this group, and then you can branch out from there and invite her to other events outside of that group, outside of that singular activity. And that's going to give you the highest chance of meeting somebody who is both attractive and mentally stable. Because if on dating apps, it's a little bit trickier, right? Because people who are on dating apps, and right now during COVID, it's a little bit different. So I'll put that out there. But like somebody who's like very, very, very attractive, like a very attractive woman, she's not going to have any problem, meeting guys in her life. She's got her other classes, she's got her events, she's got her things that she does, and that's where she meets the people that are in her life. So she doesn't need to get on dating apps, and except maybe if she wanted to grow her Instagram followers, get like these virtual following of some sort that she never meets, right? And so dating apps typically isn't the best place to meet somebody who is very, very attractive, because they're already meeting lots and lots of people out in their normal life. So the way to meet them is that you go and meet them out in your normal life as well, and just make the same types of events that they would go to, types of events that you would go to. And right now with COVID, it's a little bit different because you have people are having a hard time meeting people. People, don't want to go out and into these big groups or classes or events. And so you can meet people on dating apps that you typically wouldn't be able to meet on dating apps if it wasn't COVID. So that being said, if you want to meet people on dating apps who are very, very attractive, you have to do things on your date on like in your profile that make you stand out from other guys. And typically what that means is a lot of guys on dating apps, they like to tell who they are, right? They like to say, I'm 6'2" and I have a dog named Rex, and I'm a dentist. Swipe right and let's grab a beer, right? Something like that. Like that would be somebody's about me for their they like to tell who they are, and then they have pictures of them, selfies that they're taking like in the bathroom, or like selfies that they're taking like in front of something, and it's a lot of just like it comes off like they are telling this person who they are. And if you want to make your profile stand out on a dating app, instead of telling who you are, you have to show who you are. And the major differences in that would be for your pictures, you're aiming for candid shots that look artistic as hell. Like if all of your friends were photographers, and every time that you went out, you had a photographer buddy being like, wait, stand right there. You look awesome. Just keep doing what you were doing. And they capture you in like these awesome moments where you've got like the lines and the colors and the image just all like really pop and make you look like this total badass, like you belong in a magazine or belong in a movie. In an ideal world, that's your profile. Just a series of photos that look like that just of these moments caught of you doing things that you love, that really just show you in your element, show you, just being awesome and living a great life. And that would be, an ideal profile, your ideal profile pictures. And then your about me is just kind of, instead of saying, all of those things I mentioned earlier, about how you're 6 foot or whatever, you can say, you can show it by telling a story a little bit, like, like unfortunately for my dog Rex, who wishes that I was home all the time, I've been extra busy lately saving lives because I'm a doctor, or something like that, or I've been extra busy trying to save these COVID patients' lives. This has been a crazy time for me lately. But I'd like to take a break from I'd like to take a break from just my busy life and entertaining Rex. to go out on a really fun date with somebody who doesn't judge me as much as Rex does. Something to that effect. Like it just kind of describes, and you're kind of telling a little bit of a story of your life. Like you're kind of showing what it's like to be you, versus telling, I have a dog named Rex. I'm a doctor, and I'm 6'3". So something along those lines. And if you were to obviously for 6'3" one, you could just show that in one of your badass images or whatever that you posted up for your on your profile. So if that would be a much better profile for somebody than to telling what they who you are and stuff. Yeah. So that would be. Let's see. Which question was that I was answering? Just a second. Oh, that would be the best way in order to get an attractive girlfriend. So that goes for, typically not on a dating app, but right now you totally can do it on a dating app. And that was kind of how, on like a huge overview how. Let's see. Should I tell my coworker that I have feelings for her? To answer the question of should you tell your coworker that you have feelings for her? No, you shouldn't. And I strongly recommend that you just don't date coworkers. There's a rule that is I strongly recommend everyone follow. Don't, and it's just excuse my language, but it's don't shit where you eat. And dating a coworker can create a lot of drama. If something goes wrong, it can go very, very wrong and directly affect your income and your life. It's just not worth it. It's not worth your reputation. If something were to, if she were to, say that you made her uncomfortable on a date or something, or, if she starts, talking about, personal things that happened between you that you weren't flattering in any way, like that can just definitely negatively affect your life. It isn't worth it at all. Like not even the smallest risk. Would I say that you should, date a coworker. Now, that being said, if you're like, I really want to do it anyway, then get a different job. And then, you can start dating her as you're transitioning to your next job. And that would be, much better. But to answer the question of should you tell your coworker that you have feelings for her? No, you should not. And kind of answers the second question too. The question is, should I ask a coworker out on a date? No, you shouldn't ask a coworker out on a date. For the same reasons for the last one, do not shit where you eat. It isn't worth it. It's not worth the risks or repercussions. Don't do it. But what you can do in order to just build up a social life is you can invite your coworkers all out to go and hang out, to go to grab a drink or go to a music festival or something, and invite everybody. And at that point, you'll definitely make yourself stand out, build up use your work environment as your social life a little bit and branch off of that. And now from there, you can meet and date your coworkers' friends just a little bit. It's much safer to do that. And so when their friends come over from to your events, because you tell everyone, hey, we should all go and grab drinks, bring your friends, and you meet the friends. That's a great way to start dating. You can branch out through that. So that's what I would say. The answer of should I ask a coworker out on a date? No, you shouldn't. But you can ask all of your coworkers to hang out, and you can totally reach out and meet their friends. Let's see. Next question is should I? How to spice up my sex life. So, assuming you have a sex life, here is how to spice up your sex life. To spice it up, basically, it kind of depends, right? It depends on who this other person that's involved in your sex life is. What kinds of things do they like? It's going to start with conversation. It's going to start with talking about what are things that that would sexually excite you. You're asking your partner that. You can talk about the things that would sexually excite her. Here's a good few questions that you could ask. A really solid one is, when you're really, really horny and you go on to watch porn, what is your go-to search when you're don't have something very specific in mind that you'd want to see? Right. So that's a simple question that can give you a lot of information. You can also choose to watch porn together and kind of talk about the scenes instead of getting really turned on by what you're seeing, which it's fine too. But you can talk about hey, would you ever do that? Does that look fun to you? Does this look exciting? And build up a conversation around what you're seeing. And once you have this idea of conversation in mind, next step is go to a sex store. go to a sex store together and start looking at toys, talking about, hey, would you want to try this? Would you want to try that? If it's somebody who you guys don't have like a let's say we don't have like a wild imagination or a lot of sexual experience together, there are a few toys that I can recommend right off the bat that can work in order to kind of change that, in order to like build up like a sexual desire between you two. One of them is actually this thing called they're called Kegel balls. Kegel balls. You can go and go to a sex store, get some Kegel balls, and there's like a fun thing that you can do. They're basically these weighted balls that sometimes that they come attached with like a piece of rubber or something that you can put them inside of her vagina, and then you can pull them out. But what they add a little bit of weight down to like on her vagina, like on her vaginal opening, and so it can be really really exciting to kind of like have those in, and then go out for drinks or something, or go out in public, and it's kind of like adds this, like, as a guy, you have like this, sometimes you can have like this pressure build up in your pants for like no reason, and it starts making you think about sexual things, and so you are out in public thinking about these sexual thoughts because of just this pressure in your pants. Kegel balls are the same thing, except for her, right? So she'll be sitting and everything is fine, but as soon as she stands up, she's going to feel this pressure, and she's going to immediately be thinking about sex, and that's going to be happening throughout the night. So when you get back to the house, she's going to be very turned on. It's going to be something that's like been building up throughout the night. She's been, keep this thought that just keeps happening. This like thing, like, oh shoot, I forgot that those were there. And so that's like a really fun one. Another one that's like really similar would be like the remote control vibrating panties. Again, the idea is just going out and doing normal things, but with this like sexually exciting, thing happening, the sexually exciting secret that you two share. That's really, really going to spice up your sex life, and just like hit it home that, you guys are open to trying these sexual experiences together. Just get both of you thinking about sex more often, thinking about sex with each other, being around each other while you're both being turned on. That's where I recommend somebody who's like just getting started in their sexual exploration with their partner. That's like a really good place to get started. And that is my answer to how to spice up your sex life. All right, so we've hit the time, we've hit the 30-minute mark, and so that's going to be it for today. But again, this is something that we're going to be doing regularly. So I recommend that you guys hop on next time. It's either going to be here in I actually don't know what kind of schedule we're adjusting our schedule is for this right now. This is a new thing that we're going to get started going, but it's going to be either bi-weekly or monthly. So you can definitely stay tuned on our channels, and we will let you know when the next one's going to be. That's it for today. Again, my name is Steven with the ACE Formula, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care.